Director Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare hits theaters this week. Starring Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson, it's based on the true story of the early days of the British Special Operations Executive, also known as the SOE, during the Second World War. The SOE carried out many different operations that helped turn the tide during the war. A film about another mission titled Operation Mincemeat was made by Netflix a few years ago. These were real heroes of the war, and it's safe to say old Adolf wasn't a fan.
But Hitler, when he found out about these guys, said, all bets are off. If we capture you, you will be tortured in the most horrific of ways.
You know, with Hitler, the more I learn about that guy, the more I don't care for him.
The film, while being based on a true story, takes on a highly exaggerated approach in relation to what actually happened in the history. So expect more Inglourious Bastards than, say, Saving Private Ryan. Henry Cavill plays Gus March Phillips, and they made the decision to let him rock a pretty great beard as opposed to trying to make him look more like the real March Phillips. Which I think Cavill deserves after having to go through this, and this, also not to mention this. I mean, that is a hard look to pull off. Believe me, I know from experience, when my father forced his haircut on me in 2nd grade as a young ginger, I did not pull it off, and my entire class laughed when I walked into school the next day. But enough of my childhood trauma, let's get back to these ungentlemanly gentlemen. Richardson actually looked more like his character Anders Lassen, although he is close to 20 years older than the real Lassen was at the time the film takes place. But funnily enough, if you look at this picture from when Richardson was around 24, when he played Aquaman on Smallville, he bears a passing resemblance. Since that time on Smallville, he's probably like doubled his size, in muscle. Like the guy is a huge beast. And he actually seems to have totally increased as an actor, probably 10 times the actor he was back then. Here, he seems to be a highlight in the film as the bow-hunting, knife-wielding, hatchet-throwing Nazi killer. From the small glimpses of the film that I've seen, Cavill seems to be having the time of his life. I don't think he's enjoyed working on a film this much since he started Ritchie's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. way back in 2015. It was one of the many great spy films he starred in. It's interesting to note that Cavill was almost cast as James Bond back when Casino Royale was being made, but ended up losing out on the role, of course, to Daniel Craig.
It was really bizarre because when Henry was auditioning for Bond, I was at Pinewood, right? And Daniel was as well, right? At the same time. And I'd go off and meet with Daniel, and he'd say what's going on. He says, this young guy called Henry Cavill, I think they're seeing as well. And I'd work with, no, we hadn't done Stardust yet. Have we done Stardust? No, we hadn't done Stardust yet. But that's how you came in. That's how you came into my radar. I was thinking, well, who's this guy who got down to the last two for Bond? So that's how I discovered you, because you auditioned. And I know that the director preferred your audition, but Barbara preferred layer cake. So just so you know, and they decided you were too young. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but the Broccoli's aren't that keen on me anyway.
He has consistently been rumored for the part in the last few years, and he probably would have made a great 007, but sadly it looks like he may have lost out on that role for good, as rumors suggest Aaron Taylor Johnson is almost guaranteed to be the next Bond.
Name's Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin.
We can take some solace in seeing him portray Gus March Phillips, however, who is believed to be one of the agents who inspired Bond. Ian Fleming, Bond's creator, was a part of the SOE and took a great deal of inspiration for his novels from this time in the service, including the character of M, who is based on Brigadier Gubbins, played by Cary Elwes in the film. Freddie Fox portrays Ian Fleming as he helped to create the cover story for Operation Postmaster, the mission March Phillips commands in the film. Operation Postmaster involved March Phillips and his team sailing a ship to West Africa and stealing 3 enemy ships from a neutral Spanish port on the volcanic island of Fernando Po. And contrary to what seems to be portrayed in the film, it went off without a hitch.
This mission in particular was exciting because it was on paper a suicide mission. And they were remarkably successful to the point where our movie's slightly more hyperbolic in nature. Not a single shot was fired at them during the whole operation. It went incredibly well.
As Henry Cavill mentioned in another interview, this is very much the Guy Ritchie version of history, which means we should be in for a fun, action-packed ride at the theaters this weekend. Are you excited for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Sergeant.